Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach. Today, we are going to talk about injuries that both Ellie and I have received that have kind of hindered our performance in the saddle. Ellie, do you want to lead us off with your back injury?
Yeah, so I've talked a couple times on here that I have a back injury, but I haven't really told you guys what happened. So I thought today would be a good day to kind of talk about all of that and how I came back from it and that sort of thing. So my big injury happened literally right when COVID started. So, like April 2020, the world had just shut down. I had lost my job. It was kind of a dark time for me mentally. And then at the time, I had this horse. He was a 3 year old, and I had started him as a 2 year old,
Hmm.
and he was a great horse to start. He was super easy, literally was the easiest 2 year old that I've ever met. I mean, I had never started a horse before, and it was totally fine for him to be my first one. He was super easy minded. He was so chill. He was just such a cool horse. And then when he was 4 months under saddle, he injured himself. He tore his suspensory in his right front, I think, and he had to go on rehab for the next 6 months. Well, because he was only under saddle for 4 months before he got hurt, he wasn't that broke. So, it was on, like, month 4 or 5 of his rehab, we had to start bringing him back and walking him under saddle, and he was no longer such a good-minded animal. He was pretty dangerous. He totally lost his mind on rehab. It totally destroyed, like, his mental confidence, and he just became super spooky and super unconfident with himself. So, we had to be pretty careful when we were walking him under saddle, and we knew that, so we took a lot of precautions, and there was one day where it was actually on Mother's Day of 2020, and I went out to the barn, and I was the only one out there, and I knew that I was the only one out there, so I was like, "I'm not gonna get on him today, like, that's not a good idea." But I still saddled him up, and I took him out to the arena, and I hand walked him for, like, 15 minutes, and he had his head in the dirt. He literally couldn't care about anything that was going on in the world. It was a kind of a chill day, so I was like, "Alright, like, you're being a good boy, I'll hop on." And I hopped on, and the second that my butt hit the saddle, he just took off. He just took off, bucking and running down the arena wall, and we were heading towards the wall, and I knew that something was gonna happen, and I wanted to control how I came off. So, I kind of jumped off to the side, and I landed on the left side of my back, and I'm pretty sure I passed out for a bit. Like, I remember hitting the ground, and I remember kind of seeing him run off, and I remember not being able to move. So, I was just kinda laying in the dirt, and I remembered that I could, like, see him, like, just running around the arena, and it sounds so stupid, but the only thing that I could think was, "Oh my god, you're injured and you're running around the arena like you're gonna injure yourself again." Like, here I was in the dirt, literally couldn't move, and that's what I was worried about. But luckily, he did not feel like running me over. So he ran over to me and just kinda stopped and, like, stared at me, and he just kinda stood by me. And then I remember thinking, "Well, if you spook and decided to run me over, like, I literally can't do anything, like, I can't move." Then I started to get nervous that I was
Mm.
paralyzed because I couldn't really move, like, my lower half at all. Like, I could move my arms and I could move my head, but I couldn't move, like, my legs or my hips. So, luckily, I had my phone on me. So, first thing, I called my mom, and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm in the dirt. I can't get up. Ed's loose." And so my mom lived, like, an hour away from the barn, so it wasn't like my mom could just run down to me and help me. So, I called the barn owner who lived on the property. She just wasn't down at the barn. And she came to the barn, and she picked me up, and when she picked me up, I remember, like, almost passing out. Like, I didn't fully pass out, but I remember everything going black, and I could not stand. So they put me in a chair, and then she was like, "You need to go to the hospital." And I was like, "No, like, it's not that bad." Like, I think that I was just still in shock and still had adrenaline running through, and I was like, "No, like, I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital." She was like, "No, like, you're going to the hospital." So they called an ambulance. Ambulance came and got me, and they took me to the ER, and at this point, like, I still was not in any pain. I just knew that I couldn't really move, and then they were like, "Do you want any" I don't remember what they offered, morphine or something like that, and some sort of pain medication. And I was like, "No, like, I'm fine." And I remember I got to the hospital and then it kind of set in. And like I said, this was in the very beginning of COVID. So everybody was wearing masks. This hospital was kind of a scary place to go to at that time. So when we got there and I saw the chaos and all the COVID precautions and everything, that's kind of when it started setting in that I was hurt, that I was actually hurt and that I was in the hospital. And that's when the pain started coming. And then once I got there, they told me that they couldn't, I don't remember why, but they couldn't give me any pain medication once I got to the hospital, like, they needed to evaluate me first or something, I don't know. They, like, put me in the waiting room, and by this time, like, my parents had arrived, but they weren't allowed inside because of COVID. So, I was just sitting in the waiting room by myself, and then eventually they took X-rays and everything, and they said, "Well, nothing's broken, but your back is deformed." And I'm like, "'Kay, what does that mean?" And they're like, "Nothing's broken, but you deformed, like, some bones in your hips and your back." And I'm like, "Okay." They're like, "Since nothing's broken and, like, COVID and everything, like, we can't keep you here." So they sent me home, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk for, like, 2 weeks, but they sent me home.
Did they give you physical therapy or anything at that point, or they just said, "You're deformed, goodbye, we'll see you later"?
I mean, that's how I remember it. They literally just sent me home and said, "Once you feel better, then maybe go see a chiropractor." That was basically what they said. And so I went back home and, I remember my stepdad had to, like, carry me around the house. Like, he had to pick me up from the car, he had to carry me inside. I was in so much pain. And my mom had to carry me to and from the bathroom. My mom had to carry me to the shower, like, I couldn't bathe myself. It was pretty bad. And so there I was, like, sitting at home, COVID was going on, couldn't do anything. And I was just like, "What the heck am I gonna do with my life?" It was a really dark time for me mentally. So then after that, I think maybe after, like, 3 weeks, like, once I could start walking again, I started going to physical therapy,
Mhm.
and I remember going and being like, "Yeah, like, they took X-rays and nothing's deformed." And even the physical therapist still could not figure out, like, what was wrong. Like, when I was at the hospital, they told me that some things were deformed, but they never told me what they were. And the physical therapist, like, evaluated me, and she was like, "Well, I think you tore some muscles in your back, but I don't know which ones." And I don't know, just, like, the whole process, I didn't feel like I really got that much help. Like, I was told that there were things that were wrong with me. I knew that there was a lot of things that I could not do, yet I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of help, and that was really frustrating.
Looking back, do you think you would have done anything differently, knowing what you know now?
Well, knowing what I know now, I've changed how I look at exercise very differently now than I did back then. So, what I mean by that is before I got injured, I never really focused on functional fitness at all. Like, I just focused on, like, going to the gym and how heavy of weights I could lift. Like, I didn't really focus on my mobility, my stability, injury prevention, like all the functional sides of things. And so, honestly, I think that that plays a big part into your recovery is how much you focus on injury prevention in your everyday training. So, obviously, now since I've been injured, I've totally changed how I look at fitness. So, I would say that obviously I would change that. I would have focused a lot more on the functional side of fitness before I got injured. And one, I think that helped my injury not be so severe. And I think it would have helped my recovery tremendously. Hi, everyone. It's your personal trainer, Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopeanddowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride. my recovery was very, very, very slow. So I think that that would have helped me a lot. And then I think that I would have been more assertive in the hospital and then with the physical therapist of like, no, like there's something wrong. You need to figure out what it is so that that way we can fix it. Like I just felt like the whole time nobody was like actually helping me fix it, if that makes sense. So went to physical therapy, went for months, and it helped.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time I went, I was like, "Okay, like when can I go ride again?" Like here I was, like not really even being able to walk or like do anything. And I was like, "Hey, like when can I ride?" And she looked at me, and at the time, I thought I wanted to be a horse trainer. Like that's what I thought I was gonna do with my life. I was still an amateur, like, I just was thinking that that's what I wanted to do, like once I got better. And I remember she looked at me and she was like, "There's no way that your body can physically handle the demands of being a horse trainer. Like, you will not be able to ride 10, 12 horses a day. You will not be able to clean all the stalls. You won't be able to lift all the saddles." Like, all these things that she was telling me. And I remember my heart just sank. I was like, "How can I have a career-ending injury before I even start my career?" And I remember thinking, like, "Man, like, this sucks." And I kinda had a bit of a pity party. And I was like, "No, like, there's no way, like, I'm gonna get better, it's gonna be fine, like, I'm gonna get through this." So, I was really, really determined to get better, and so I was really religious with my physical therapy. Once I was able to, like, I would go on walks every day. I lifted weights at home once I could. Like, I made sure that I did everything that I could to get back in the saddle, and it was 6 months before I rode again. It was actually 6 months before I even exercised, like, normally exercised again. So, it was a long recovery, and I remember when I went back to ride the first time, I could ride, but I couldn't lift a saddle. I couldn't pick hooves. Like, I could grab the horse and I could take the blanket off, but anything that required my back to, like, stabilize or lift something, I couldn't do it. So, I remember I went out to the barn and I was like, "Okay, I can ride, but I can't do all these things." And I think I just walked and trotted for a while. Like, I couldn't lope, I was not stable enough, I was not strong enough, and luckily, riding itself has never really made my back hurt. It was more that I just felt like I wasn't stable enough to, like, stay on for a while. And then because it was so unstable on the left side of my lower back, I think it took about 6 months for me to even put weight in my left seat bone. The hardest part about coming back from that injury was how much it changed my riding. So, like, before I was injured, I was never a fearful rider. I was pretty brave. I never really felt like I struggled with anything physically. I felt pretty strong. I felt pretty mobile. Like, I felt like I was a pretty strong rider, and then I got injured, and a lot changed for me mentally and physically. I started to look at horses a lot different. Like, I started to realize that, okay, horses can hurt me. Like, I've been hurt pretty bad once, and I just made the realization that they could keep hurting me. So then I started to get pretty fearful of horses, and I just felt like I couldn't ride the way that I used to. And that was insanely frustrating mentally because I still had all this mental knowledge of the places that I needed to put my body and the cues that I needed to do and where I needed to put the horse's body. And I just feel like I couldn't physically do it. So then I kind of went down this like spiral of, oh my gosh, like maybe I should just quit. Like I'm never going to be able to get back to where I was. And then I just said, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. This is what I love to do. I don't want to do anything else. I still want a career in horses, but maybe just not horse training. And I just kinda kept chipping away at it. Then I realized that, okay, if I want to continue riding, then I need to prioritize my fitness, and I need to learn how I'm gonna get myself back to where I used to be. And like I said, I just didn't feel like I was getting the help that I needed from physical therapy, from my doctors, and so I was like, "Screw it, like, I'm gonna learn how to rehab myself." So that's when I decided to get certified as a personal trainer. I was like, "If I'm sitting on my ass at home and it's during COVID and I don't have a job and I can't do anything, I might as well be useful with my time." So I started taking my certification and I got certified in September of 2020. And now I had all this knowledge about exercise and how the body moves and how the body functions. And then I kind of started rehabbing myself. Like, I took all that knowledge that I learned and I just started applying it to myself, and I kinda used myself as a guinea pig of, "Okay, so I'm having this problem. Can I start doing these sorts of exercises, and can I see if I can fix it?" And I kinda just started playing around with that, and I had success with it. So, like I said, like, the first 6 months of when I first came back, I literally could not put weight in my left seat bone. Like, the left side of my back was so tight and so unstable, and then because I was kinda hiking up my left hip, I would be crooked in my spine. So I would be hiking up my left hip, and then I would be dropping my left shoulder, and then because I was hiking up my left hip, I couldn't stretch my left heel down or my left leg down, like, at all. So, I could ride to the left just fine because the right side of my body was stable, but riding to the right, where it requires the left side of your body to be stable, and I couldn't do it. I felt like a fish out of water, and this was 4 years ago now, and I still feel that way sometimes. So, it's been really challenging physically to come back from it, and I still feel like even to this day, with all the knowledge that I have about health and fitness, and I still ride 2 or 3 times a week, and I do all these things every day for my back and for my fitness, I still feel like I can't ride the same way that I used to be able to. And so that's been really frustrating because it's like I have all this knowledge and I know what I need to do, but I physically just can't do it sometimes. And it's really frustrating, but I've been able to overcome it. And the funny thing is, now I look back at my injury and I'm kind of thankful for it because I would not have gotten certified if I hadn't injured my back. I would not have gained the knowledge that I have about fitness for equestrians and why it's so important. I would not have started my business. And then even if I had kind of figured out that I wanted to start my business, I would not be able to help my clients near as much who have their own injuries or have their own physical deficits as I can now because I know what it's like to live through pain and I know what it's like to ride through pain and to have this instability and have this body part where it's like you know what it needs to do, but it just can't physically do it. So I'm really thankful for my injury, but it's been a long road to recovery. So now in my fitness, kind of what I do to get my back to be as functional as I can get it is I foam roll pretty much every day. So like I said, my back just gets really, really tight. So I do foam rolling and static and active stretching to kind of help release the tension in my back. Sitting makes my back really, really tight. So I try and stand as much through my workday as much as I can. And then I try not to sit in the car all day long, like, sitting in the car will make my back super, super tight. So, sometimes when I go to horse shows and we've been in the truck for 2 days, it can be kinda tough when I first get to the show. So, I just know that I have to take care of my back, I have to stretch, I have to foam roll, that's how I release that tension. Once that tension is released, then I have to focus on moving my back through a full range of motion. I lost quite a bit of mobility when I had my injury, and I still don't have near as much mobility on the left side of my body as I do my right side. So that's something that I focus on probably 4 or 5 times a week. I don't do it every day, but 4 or 5 times a week. And then in January, my trainer and I saw a physical therapist for equestrians. So she came out and she evaluated us, and I had her evaluate me because I felt like I had gotten to a pretty good place in my back, but I still have a good amount of pain from my back, and I wanted to see if she can help me with that. Like, when I went to physical therapy, they helped me regain, like, some mobility and some strength and that sort of thing, but I never felt like they tackled my pain. And I feel like part of that is because they don't actually know what's wrong with my back. Like I said, they said that there's some bones deformed, they said that I tore some muscles, but I never really got an answer as to, like, what I actually did to it. Like, I never got, like, a diagnosis on it. And so, even when I went to go see my new physical therapist for equestrians and I had her evaluate it, she was like, "Yeah, like, I don't really know what you did, and I can't like, it my pain is really quite odd." Like, there's no sciatic pain, so it's not sciatica, like, I never get pain that runs down my leg. It's quite odd, like, what happened to it, and the things that bother it and the things that don't aren't very normal. So, it's been kinda hard to manage my pain, and I don't deal with a lot of pain today, but it is still there, and if I'm not taking care of my back, then it tells on me. If I'm not foam rolling, if I'm not stretching, then I pay for it. The other thing that's really big is strengthening it. If I'm not focusing on strength training and training my back through a full range of motion, then I notice that I have a lot more pain. So, making sure that I prioritize that strength training on top of all the mobility and just the functional stability of my back, that's made a huge difference. So, like I said, when I'm on top of managing it, I don't really have much of a problem with it. When I ride, it's still a bit of a challenge. And the further that I get along in my fitness and my riding, it's like the different problems that I have. And my physical therapist, Michelle, has been giving me new exercises for that. I ride in these bands all the time. They're these rubber resistance bands, and I put them crossways on my body. So one of the bands is around my right shoulder and then underneath my left foot, and then vice versa. And when I ride in them, it forces my body to be a lot more square and centered in the saddle. So I ride in those quite a bit and just really focus on like how stable can I make my back. And then, like I've talked about a couple times before, I have some exercises that I do like when I get to the barn, when I get on the horse, a couple different activating exercises, a couple stretches for my back. And some days are good and some days aren't. Like there'll be some days when I go out to the barn and my back is just feeling strong, it's feeling mobile, it's feeling stable, and I go and I have a really, really good ride. And then there's other days where I go out and I'm like, "Wow, like, that was terrible." Like, on Friday, I was not having a good day physically, and I kinda just had a talk with my trainer of, "You know what? Like, today is what it is. It's just not a good day. There's not much that I can do about it, and try not to let it get to me mentally." Honestly, I feel like it's been more challenging mentally than physically to come back from all this. Like, I've done a pretty good job. Like, I'd say my back is probably 80-85% back to where it used to be, but mentally, I'm definitely not at 80-85% of what I used to be. So, yeah, that's kind of my story of what happened.
Yeah, and that's just amazing, everything that you had to overcome, and it says a lot to, like you said, your mental ability to just kinda push through and say, "I'm gonna find a way." Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pin anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and I'm here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride. So when you said that you kind of trialed and errored on yourself in finding ways to strengthen your back and add mobility, how long did you give each exercise an opportunity to work before you tried something different? Was it a couple weeks, couple months, or what was kind of your thought process there?
It's a good question. Probably about 2 or 3 months to really see if what I was doing was making a difference. And then after that time, I would say, "Okay, like, this has gotten a little bit better, but this is where I'm still kind of lacking." So, it's not that I would more try and build upon things instead of completely changing something. And then after, like, 6
Sure.
to 9 months, if I still was like, "Man, like, I'm still not seeing the difference that I want to," then I'll say, "Okay, like, now it's time to maybe go back to the drawing board, maybe get some outside help to kinda help me and kinda see what their outside perspective is." Because it's so funny. I'm pretty good at watching a writer, listen to a writer tell me the things that they're struggling with, and then give them a program that helps for them. But it's much harder to do it for myself. And I feel like part of it is because it's like I'm too close to it. You know what I mean? And so it's like I almost need like that outsider's opinion to be able to help me through it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all need kind of an outside coach, right? Because it's a lot easier to see what somebody else is going through because I'm not sure if it's a mental deal where we maybe think we're doing something or we ignore and say, "Oh, that part's not that important." But if somebody can look at it from the outside and say, "No, this is important, so let's focus on that." It can really just kind of open up your perspective and give you different things to try.
For sure. Like when I had the physical therapist, Michelle, come out in January, she pointed out something that I hadn't even thought of. Like she looked at me and she said, "Well, you're having this lateral stability problem because your glute medius is not strong enough." And I remember being like, "Really? Like, that's the problem?" Like, it had not dawned on me that not only did I need to strengthen my back, I needed to strengthen my glutes as well. Like, that hadn't even I hadn't even thought of that. So, getting an outside perspective has really been super helpful for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can imagine that. And you're a strong rider, at least when I watch you, that's what I always think. And so that's really impressive to hear where you came from to the point where they said you might not even be able to ride and have your body hold up to that, right? So I think that's a true testament to what physical exercise can do for you and help you overcome.
There's that saying, "Fake it till you make it." Uh,
Is that you?
that's my motto every day. Every time that I get out to the barn, and it's so funny, like, outsiders who don't really know me will come up and be like, "Oh my gosh, like, you're doing so well, and, like, you look so good, and you're such a strong rider." And every time they say that, I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Like, I never fully believe them, like, I will always be my hardest critic, and I'm so hard on myself, and, my trainer has to remind me of that a lot. Like, the other day, I was having a really good ride, and she was like, "It's going really well today," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm trying really hard," and she looked at me and she was like, "Ellie, you try hard every day. Like, it's not that today you're trying any harder than any other day, it's that today, for whatever reason, it's like all the stars have aligned." You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yeah. And then I'm not the only one who's had an injury. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit about, the things that you've gone through physically and how you've overcome them and that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, thankfully, I haven't had as major of an injury as you have, but mine was also on the backside. I broke my tailbone when I was learning how to ride cutting horses with my grandparents back when I was 18 years old. So,
Ouch.
yeah, I remember I was on the horse and I was having such a good time because if any of you have ever ridden a cutting horse, you will agree that it is the biggest rush. Like to have that horse hook onto a cow and kind of go left, go right, and you just kind of get to be along for the ride. I mean, there's obviously when you go to the higher level, there's a ton of things that you do. But as a beginner, I just thought it was a blast. So I'm hanging on and I'm laughing, and the cow stops and stands still. So I look over at my grandpa, and as soon as I look at him, he goes, "Don't take your eyes off the cow." And right as he finishes his sentence, that cow darts to the left, the horse darts to the left, and my bum just goes smack right against the back of the saddle and just snapped my tailbone to a 90-degree angle. And
Oh
oh,
my
it hurt
god.
so bad. But being the cowgirl that I am, I didn't tell grandma and grandpa, and I was there for 2 more days.
Oh my god.
I remember that night well, the first thing was trying to get off the horse because the tailbone, it's down on your backside, obviously, where your kind of hips are, and when I had to lift my leg to come off of the saddle, let alone just sitting in the saddle, I could barely lift my leg to get off and over it. And I don't know why in my head I didn't think that this was something I should tell them about. I think I was embarrassed and part of me wanted to learn to cut so badly that I didn't want to admit that something had happened because I was afraid I'd never get that chance again, which is completely irrational looking back because grandma and grandpa would have absolutely let me ride any other time. But in that moment, I was like, I can't tell them because I want to keep riding. So I remember also climbing into bed that night. To lift my leg to get into bed, I literally brought me to tears. And I was laying there and I had to lay on my side because I couldn't lay on my back because my tailbone just hurt so bad. And I had known a story about my aunt, how she had broken her tailbone. And so in my mind, I was like, I think I bruised it. It's just bruised. Just you have to suck it up and it'll be fine. So somehow I made it through the next few days. I cried without anybody seeing. And just, I still had a great time, but I definitely cried a lot because it was painful. And when I got home, my mom and dad, they asked if I had a good time. And it's like, it was wonderful, but I broke my tailbone. And they're like, what? It's like, yeah, I think it's broken. So we went to the doctor and they took an x-ray and the doctor looks at me and says, I've never seen a tailbone that's broken this badly. It's almost at a
Oh my
90-degree
god.
angle. Yeah. And what's
Ugh.
crazy is so at the bottom of your tailbone, there's a bunch of nerves. And so they call it actually the horse's tail, which is a little ironic considering I broke it riding a horse. Um, and he told me that there was literally nothing that they can do for it because if they were to try to go in surgically to fix the broken tailbone with all those nerves, you just risk a ton of nerve damage, right?
Ugh.
So he just said, you're just going to have to tough it out, get one of those little donuts, like a little hernia donut, and sit on that because sitting down, oh, that was so painful. I
Oh, I bet.
definitely, even to this day, it's been over 10 years. I cannot sit flat for an extended period of time. You'll see me shift from one side to the other, but no joke, that tailbone hurt me for at least 5 years.
Oh my
Um,
god.
and the craziest part was it was right before my final youth world, and a big event that I was very strong in was the hunt seat equitation, and my horse was extremely rough, and, oh, that was the most painful summer that I've ever spent because I wasn't gonna let my trainer think that I was a wimp and all the years of work that we put in go down the drain because I had a broken tailbone. So, I just remember doing sitting trot. He put me on the
Mm,
lunge line, with took my stirrups away,
mm.
and that was, again, one of the most painful times of my life, but it paid off. We ended up making the finals at the Youth World, and everything was delightful. So but yeah, my tailbone, it was a super painful experience, and it definitely did hinder my riding. Um, but that's where kind of the mental aspect of it came in of just push through it and telling myself that I only had to pull it together for 2 minutes at a time and just keep going. But yeah, physically, there wasn't really much that I could do to try to train around it because it was just a broken bone, so I had to wait a lot. But I kinda wonder if because sometimes, as we've talked about, I my lower back gets kind of stiff when I ride a lot, and I
Right.
wonder if I maybe changed the angle of my pelvis, the way I sit just a little bit, trying to protect that back in the day, and I wonder if that sometimes leads to the issues that I encounter now, but
Yeah. It's so funny because oftentimes when you have an injury or you have, like, let's say that you're dealing with like right hip pain, right? A lot of times it's because there's something else going on in your body and you're compensating. And that's what's causing the right hip pain, or that's what's causing the back pain, right? Like a lot of times when we are having symptoms, it's because there's something else going on in your body is compensating. So a lot of times when we have pain, it's because it's from a compensation. So I would say that's definitely accurate or definitely possible.
yeah, absolutely, and I don't know why I didn't put that together until just now as we were chatting about this, but I think it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, so that's what we go through, but thankfully I've got you to help strengthen and adapt and keep me mobile so that way that lower back tightness and possible compensation doesn't become a big thing and cause me hindrance in the rest of my life.
How long have we been working out now? Will it be 3 years this summer, or has it been two? Hold
I
on, let
think
me. Okay,
so.
hold on.
I
Let me
think
look
I
back
think
because I want to make. Is it
2021 is when we
2021?
started working
Yeah,
out.
so, like, almost 3 years, geez. So, in those last 3 years, how has your pain been since we've been working out consistently?
A lot better. I think the biggest thing is the mobility that we focus on and the stability, which that's been a huge game changer just with riding and with
When you would
life.
have your pain, was it mainly in your daily life, or was it when you would ride?
It was both. So riding obviously was really rough, especially those sitting trots and stuff because the concussion against the saddle, that was really bad. And for my daily life, it took a long time for me to be comfortable even just walking upstairs. Walking upstairs and sitting down were the hardest parts. So lifting my leg, I don't know, I mean, maybe you know because you're a personal trainer, but that caused a ton of pain in my tailbone region to be able to lift my leg up to go
Well,
up a
when you think
stair.
about it, like, the action of lifting up like, let's say you're gonna lift up your right leg, that requires a lot of stabilization and control and strength from the left side of your back and from your spine. So I would imagine that every time that you went to go lift up your leg because you were having pain and it wasn't very stable there, then your body was probably trying to compensate, to offload it, and I would imagine that that would be why.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, walking upstairs and obviously
Fitting, yeah.
just sitting, those were the most
So
difficult.
what
Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t-shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats. We have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends.
did you do
Things.
to manage the pain for the time being?
Well, I did get a donut. I was a weird girl walking around with a donut. It it did make a difference, so that was good. And then I kind of would just sit from one side or the other, um, and just kind of endured it.
Were there ever times when you were riding when you just feel like you couldn't do it, like when you hurt your tailbone, or did you always pretty much push through it?
I always pushed through it. I might have been crying
Did you ever
internally.
regret pushing through it?
That's a great question. I want to say no, but I don't recommend anybody else pushing through it the way that I did, right? Because I don't know that that was necessarily the best thing I could have done or should have done, but thankfully it did not make anything worse. And realistically, for my goals, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And so it seemed 100% justified to do what I did.
So, you pushed yourself, but not to the breaking point.
Absolutely. And also, I had gotten x-rays. He said that it wasn't going to get worse, that it was what it was. I had no options that were going to make it better. So I either could wallow in self-misery or I could just get over it and live. And that's kind of what I chose, right? Was this is the hand that I'm dealt. There's literally nothing that I can do that's going to make it better or worse. So
I
we're
feel
just
like
going to go
that's part of the
straight through
hardest
it.
part about being injured or having pain is knowing when to push and when to step back. And I think you have to learn
Hmm.
like the more that you learn your body and the more that you play around with it, the better that you'll know where that line is for you. Like for me, I know that if my back is bothering me, like I know that there's a certain threshold that I have. And there gets to be a certain point where I know that if I keep pushing past this certain point, then I'm not gonna be able to walk the next day. So, I know for me that I can push up to a certain point, but then if I push further, it's going to hinder me into the next day and possibly even longer. So, I think that that's key when you have an injury of knowing where your threshold is and pushing up to that line, right? Because this sport, you will push yourself. You will be pushed to your limits. And finding your threshold of, okay, I can still do it up to this point, but then when you get to that point saying, "Okay, like, I need to back off, I need to go back to the trailer, I need to go lay down," like, you need to have a tool that way you can help yourself back out of it. So, like, for me, when my back is bothering me, I have to go lay back down in the trailer, and I just have to lay flat on my back and kinda go to sleep, and then usually when I wake back up, my back is better, but I might have to ice, I might have to foam roll, I might have to stretch. Like, I kinda have to listen to what my body is telling me and give it what it needs. And so when you have an injury, when you have pain, you have to find your threshold. And then once you're at your threshold, you have to know what tools you have to use in order to get that pain back down because you can only push through pain to a certain extent, right? Like, let's say that, like for you, and you went out to the youth world and you pushed through your tailbone. But I'm sure that if you were in much more pain than you were, you would not have been able to perform. Right? Because when you go out to that pattern, you have to be able to put all your mental and physical energy into that pattern. And if you have an injury that's hindering you, you're not going to be able to do that. So you have to find a way to manage your pain so that way you can still perform.
Absolutely. And when you're finding that threshold, sometimes you kind of have to like hit the wall, right? And know exactly where it is to push to.
Yeah.
And when you are trying to find that wall, it's kind of a tricky deal because you don't wanna push too hard too fast and then make things worse, right? So, you have to be really kind of deliberate and intentional when you are trying to find your threshold because you don't wanna cause any more damage.
Yeah, and then setting yourself up for success as much as possible is really important as well. So, like, I know that if I'm going to a horse show and I'm going to be sitting in the truck for 2 days and then I'm going to be really active once I'm there, the week before I go to the horse show, I'm not going to be hitting my training quite as hard as I was the weeks leading up, right? Because I know that when I'm weightlifting really heavy, I have the potential of being a little bit more sore. And I also might focus on eating less inflammatory foods. I might focus on stretching and foam rolling a bit more the week before I leave. Like setting yourself up for success as much as possible, I think is really important, right? And you won't know those things until you play around with it, right?
Yep.
Like what you said with the pain threshold, you don't know where that threshold is until you hit the wall a couple times. So when you're practicing, you kinda gotta figure out where that line is that way you know where that line is so you don't push past it when it actually matters.
Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.